And welcome back to the Part-Time Otaku Podcast. My name is Dave.
My name's Grant.
And no Attack on Titan this week.
No Attack on Titan.
Sorry, gang. Obviously, if you're tuning in, I think you'll probably be aware that this week there was a earthquake in Japan, which interrupted Attack on Titan Season 4, Episode 13 mid-broadcast. They're going to broadcast it next week. We will do a double episode then. But with that in mind, obviously, it's an anime. It'll be there when we get to it.
Mm-hmm.
The priority is wishing everybody well over there.
Absolutely.
I know that, there's lots of earthquakes in that region, and generally speaking, it's a little rough. So, it puts things into perspective. We wish everybody well. But we figured we would take this week to just kind of catch up on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Truth be told, Grant and I end up talking for like 20 minutes after every episode.
Sometimes longer. So I think we have almost an hour record post episode.
Yeah, and we end up talking about other shows, anime and not, movies that we're watching, just generally speaking, that kind of stuff. So we had tossed around the idea of recording that anyway, and I think maybe this would be a good week for it if if you still got appetite. One thing we should probably say, Grant, I don't know if you're aware, is because this episode of Attack on Titan was mid-broadcast, it was 19 minutes through.
Yeah,
Yeah. So with that in mind, people ripped it and it's been uploaded to the internet. So to put that to bed, we have not watched the partial episode, and we will not watch the partial episode. Haven't really seen any spoilers. We know it's out there, so we're being careful, but we're not going to touch on any of what we saw because we haven't seen anything partial or complete.
I have zero inclination as to what is taking place. Usually, it's so funny. I guess this whole culture of, I guess FOMO is the term.
Yeah.
But anytime there's a Nintendo Direct or a Sony State of Play, there's events for me personally, I like watching the event. I hate reading just, a Kotaku article or something like that, where it's just, kind of takes the air out of the situation. Mm-hmm. But it's so hard, to stay off the internet. Even
Dude.
It's it's impulse. I'm at work and, I'm on a 3-hour stretch of doing something and I have 30 seconds to myself, and next thing I know, that my phone's in my hand and it's fuck, no. I gotta wait till 7:00 tonight when I have some free time, it's
and I totally feel you too, because if you're, if you follow us on social media, it's Part-Time Otaku, basically everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, hit it up. But if you follow us, you'll know that we're all about that kind of stuff, and our own algorithms are all oriented, to show us that type of stuff. So the instant I logged on that day, I didn't see anything major, but I was like, wait, what? You know what I mean? It was just very confusing. Just because the internet is oriented to serve you what you're looking for before you know you're looking for it. So yeah, navigating the internet when there are spoilers out there is crazy.
Yeah.
It's any major MCU release, after opening night, it's just don't go. Just don't go away. Just don't go on the internet.
Yeah, take the 2-3 days you need, or try it. That's the thing too, and it's so funny, kind of a weird byproduct of, the years of COVID, going on 2 now, which is crazy to think, but, or going into year 2. Before, you'd see, Friday night, you just cannot swing, Captain Marvel or whatever, what have you, and you are champing at the bit all weekend of can I swing 2 hours here to go get it over and done with. But now at home, WandaVision's out on Friday, and it's oh, okay, I can catch that Saturday morning. No, there's no pressure around it. It's I can do other stuff at home and I can catch it in the morning. It's kind of a nice thing. I sorely miss the theater experience. And, honestly, if there's anything I miss, getting together with you and Devin and Jeff and Joey and going to the fucking movies, that was making events and stuff.
Totally.
I think I miss that the most, but personally, I'm really enjoying this home experience. I'm a homebody, so.
Well, maybe we should jump right into that, because I'm curious about your thoughts on some theater news. Maybe we can start here.
Yeah.
Because I think it's definitely relevant, and I think if you're a fan of Attack on Titan, there's a high likelihood that you're a fan of Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
One of the strongest first seasons of any anime I've ever seen. Really, just ended up loving that. And then they've had this really, really big run in Japan and elsewhere where they've released their movie. I think it's called Demon Slayer: The Infinity Train. And, the problem that we've had, like everyone, is that they've had a really delayed, slow release. Because of COVID, they're being, very tentative with their worldwide theater release schedule and subsequent Blu-ray release. And the movie happens right after season 1, and it looks like a really great arc. The trailers look great. It smashed records all in, like, everywhere. I think it beat out Call Me By Your Name. For the number 1 movie out in Japan.
It's Spirited Away as well. Like,
yeah.
That was the big one. That was like, what people were comparing at the time, how big a deal that was.
So it's number 1, and wherever it goes, it seems to do really well. I know it went to New Zealand, Australia, and it did really well. Anyway, all of that to say, we got news like yesterday or today.
I think it had kind of. I think there was presumptions yesterday, but today was like they had said 16th that there was going to be news about the release.
Yeah, they like embargoed the embargo. They're like, hey, here's a pre-announcement to our announcement.
Oh my god,
I hate that shit. Anyway,
I know.
So it's coming out. So it's going to hit the U.S. and Canada. If you're listening to this podcast, high likelihood you're in the U.S. or maybe Canada. So the question is like, what do you do? Like, do you see it? What was the date, Grant? It's going to come out. I think April 20 something.
I think it's April 16th, June 22nd for the digital release and Blu-ray release.
So, the question Grant and I have is we are undoubtedly going to see this movie.
Absolutely. There's no question.
You can't keep us away from it. And Demon Slayer said they're going to pick up season 2, and it's probably going to pick up on after the events of the movie. So we got to see this before the season 2 comes out. And the question is like, well, when are you guys going to see it? People listening, it's like, should we see it as soon as possible so we can cover it in April? And then, there's like COVID implications, like what's the deal with theaters right now? I have no idea. I haven't been in one in a year. Or do you just wait? Do you just wait till the Blu-ray release?
So if there was like I'm leaning to no. I think I'm going to wait personally, I would like to wait for a digital release. It's to come to see you and make like the big theater experience. I could potentially do that. That would be more of like a likelihood, just because the theater, you and I, when we have like spectacle, like big events, like the Marvel movies and whatnot, like that is probably one of the nicest theaters I've ever been to, and I openly choose to only go to that if I can. Where I live, not the greatest theater. Like, I know obviously COVID has kind of cleaned a lot of things up, but like even on like their best day pre-COVID, I was just not,
it still felt like a bit of a biohazard area.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Like, this is gonna sound like super inside baseball into my life, but like my tailbone is fucked, and there's points where seating matters, and like sometimes, depending on the theater, it's either 30 minutes into the movie, I gotta stand up and do like an awkward stretch, and it's like people are watching me, or it's at a nice theater, it's like, I'll just rough it out for 20 more minutes till the movie is over, and then like I'll be walking out of here. So I don't know.
I know that feel. I was recently talking to some friends just about how your priorities shift. And we were talking about where should we go, and the number one, like the consensus we reached was like somewhere with the excellent back support. I really doesn't matter to me. Make sure there's a booth.
Yeah.
But yeah, so. It sounds like you're kind of split. Maybe we could do it together. Obviously, no matter what, there'll be a podcast about it.
Yeah.
I am just so hungry for this movie because it, if it did like so in theaters in Asia, I would be like, we'll catch it when we catch it. But like, it's just
this movie's a big deal. That's the thing, and that is
stomping everything.
That's the hard pill to swallow. Is that it is, and the thing is, I'm getting the vibe. It's not just because people have been short of content in like. Genre, like I think the last like major, I might be speaking out of tongue here or out of cheek here, but was Broly the last major anime theatrical release?
I know that's the last one that crushed it in the way that an anime crushes in Japan, and we hear about it in the US and Canada.
I guess Call Me By Your Name would be, or not Call Me By Your Name.
I mean, that's
a different movie.
All of that was before, though. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's the first big one in a while. I think that's fair to say. I think Broly crushed. I'm sure there was like a ton of really great movies and hits out there, but they weren't so huge that we heard about it here. You know what I mean?
But that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's because of the lack of
content.
I think this movie is just a big deal. I think the content itself is so good. And I think that's a little harder for us to, wrap it. And then, again, what I was going to say earlier, it's not like season 2 was, like, hot on our heels. And we're like, we can't watch season 2 because we haven't seen, Infinity Train yet. We're going to have some time. And,
I think so, yeah.
So it's, and you know what, Dave, you and I have been talking, we've been trying to figure this out for the past couple of weeks now, of like what the next logical step is for the show, like what the next show we're going to cover is. Mm-hmm. And I'm just not that upset about this Demon Slayer situation, because we do have so much ahead of us, like,
yeah,
we've been very back and forth on what we want to do next. And it's I think Demon Slayer, it's going to be here. We're going to talk about it, like you said. So it's when it comes, it comes.
Yeah, we will. We'll figure it out. There'll definitely be a podcast on it, and then depending on timing of season 2 and all that, there's definitely a likelihood that we end up covering that week to week if it rolls out week to week, which I presume it will. But anyway,
absolutely, that will absolutely be a show we talk about.
Yeah. For now, just actually last note on Demon Slayer, because we talked about how great it is and the animation and stuff. I saw an episode, I don't know why, like last week, and generally speaking, how we've talked a lot about 3D and CG and how it's like not usually great.
Sure.
Like, and I can think of, other examples other than like Attack on Titan season 4 that like generally, here's a good topical example for you, is there's this classic anime that everybody loves called Berserk that was done in the 90s, and it's fine. I have some opinions on that, and everyone will hear it at one point, but it's fine.
Sure.
And but then they rebooted it recently, and they did this whole thing in like CG, and it is some of the most painful shit to watch I've ever seen. Like I couldn't get past an episode, and when a lot of people look at 3D animation and CG animation, it's generally like, oh, you kind of took the easy way out. So, it's kind of frowned upon.
Sure.
When you think about Demon Slayer and how unreal that movie is, or that series is, season 1, and how they are like just adding 3D elements into hand-drawn scenes basically every episode. It's fucked. Like the animations of Tanjiro's sword, or like even like in landscape shots, they'll decide to 3D like a water fountain just to give it like more depth.
Sure.
They're fucking crazy. That might be, I don't want to go out on a limb and like be hyperbolic, but that might be some of the best animation I've ever seen, just because of how creative it is.
Well, I think you and I had talked about, we definitely talked about Demon Slayer in we had like that bye week in the new year, I think just before the new year, like our 2020 in review kind of thing. Yeah. And that was, I think I had mentioned, like, Demon Slayer absolutely captivated me. It was one of those shows where I was getting up early from work, which no one likes doing.
Yeah.
And I was sitting at the kitchen table with like a plate of eggs, and just like I'd try and get like 2 or 3 episodes in before I had to leave, and that was the thing too. It was just so beautiful, everything apart between like the storytelling and Demon Slayer is just one of those shows. Like I just love gushing over it because it deserves to be gushed over. Like it's a treat, There's so much amazing, great anime, but when it's wrapped up nice and neat like that, it's hard not to kind of be hyperbolic about it.
Fair enough. So speaking of other anime, maybe we can start here because we're well past halfway through it. Dr. Stone.
2 episodes left, I think.
Dr. Stone, season 2. I just recently got caught up. I know you're a big fan of this, and this is a beautiful show, especially the way it's drawn. What do you think about season 2?
It's good. It's good. It's
not blowing your head off.
Sorry?
It's not like blowing your head off amazing.
No,
but it is good.
It's funny because I've been thinking for the better part, probably since Sunday, since we decided to do, this type of episode this week of, and I knew Dr. Stone was going to come up. So there's something about it that I just wasn't sure of. It wasn't that there was anything glaringly bad, but I think what it comes down to is the length. You know, this has been a big topic for us, you know, over the past season for Attack on Titan. And like it works in Dr. Stone's favor, because I found the first season, it was it's the first season of a show, you know, you're trying to get as much information to the viewers as you can to like not overwhelm them. And, you know, again, the show, it's like very sciencey, and they break down like how things work, and it's kid friendly, and it's also not kid friendly in ways. But it's you know, it's like kind of like Bill Nye, the anime in some ways.
Solid comparison.
And, you know, it's like, it's funny and it's kooky, and I love the cast. Very, very good cast. But there was definitely moments where it was like, we can speed this up. Like, you know, not that there was filler episodes, but there was the pacing I found to be very strange. And I
agree.
And it feels like this season the pendulum swung to the opposite direction, where I think there could be a little bit more to. Again, it's still a pacing issue. It's just a lot at once. You know what I mean? Phenomenal stuff. Like, again, I have like a rotation of 3 shows this season right now, and it's, you know, I'm just, I can't wait till the next one is there. I'm just always checking Crunchyroll to see when it's ready to download, and as I do at lunch at work, you know, I catch up on anime. I watch Attack on Titan usually the day of, but no, Dr. Stone, like, it's good. Like, I got nothing bad to say about it. It's more of the same. I think it's just less heightened. Does that make any sense?
No, I think it does. I mean, it's, you know, it's still very compelling. It's just like they've kind of lost something along the way. I'm not sure really what it is, because it's a very, like, it's good. You know, let's get that out of the way. Like, I really enjoy it. That's why I'm watching it. But it just feels like I'm a bit confused sometimes when I watch it, because it's very clearly not your typical shonen. And it's very clearly like not steeped in conflict. Like, the idea around the whole show is like about Senku versus Tsukasa. Yeah. But like, there isn't a whole lot until this season. You know, there's a little more, but there wasn't really a whole lot of actual conflict between the two of them. Especially in season 1, Tsukasa was so absent because it was mostly just about Senku like taking his time doing shit,
building the kingdom of science. And yeah. I think that is, you know, as you say, I think that is what I'm missing, is the building of friendships and the bonds they build along the way. Like, you know, Chrome and...
I was going to say, teaching Chrome, like, that was some really fun shit.
Absolutely. So,
but back then, I was like, well, give me more conflict. So I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's, like you said, it's a pendulum is a little bit too much here, now it's a little bit too much there. Yeah. It just maybe is lacking a little bit of balance. That said, like... It's an excellent show. It's fucking very good. Crazy well drawn. And
it's funny. It's one of the few anime that's clearly, like, it's a shonen, but there's clearly comedy elements to it. Yeah. I actually laugh at. You know, it's the, you know, there's the, you know, the over the top anime face, you know, faces and the gags, and it's just, and you know what? Like, I think this is a good way to sum it up. If there wasn't a 3rd season, I would be fucking choked.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I'd like to see where this goes. You know, the most recent episode, we won't maybe spoil for anyone just because, you know, we don't know if you're caught up on it. But like,
like how recent? Because I am 1 episode behind right now.
Okay, I would say nothing. So what I'll say is, you know, they're making like some interesting choices, and I'm excited to see, you know, kind of where they decide to take the story. That spoils nothing. You know what I mean?
That's not true. You know what, Dave? Wrong show. I am caught up on Dr. Stone.
Oh, okay.
My mistake. Get into it. Get into it. If you got a point, get into it.
I was just gonna say I'm interested with what they're gonna do with Tsukasa. It's interesting, you know, where we ended up with him and this weird situation. But again, I don't want to spoil it for anyone listening. You know, we didn't. I don't know. I would say
we haven't been going over the whole season. I don't want to spoil it because I think it's still kind of a newer show. I think. You know, I this is one of the shows I recommend to anyone that is willing to listen to the conversation of anime. And, you know, in our circles, I don't think that's super common, but it's the one I feel the most comfortable recommending to people. One of the ones I recommend. But you know, and it's to back to how it looks. It's really interesting to compare it to Attack on Titan. 2 different shows visually, style wise, and, you know, in content. But it's kind of nice going to Dr. Stone every week because it's so like it consistently looks the way it looks, whereas Attack on Titan, we've had a lot of like ups
variants.
Variants, and then also some pretty significant inconsistencies in style. Like there's been 1 or 2 episodes that have been like some, you know, not bad, but it's just like, well, that's not what the rest of this looks like. But Dr. Stone is just one of those shows that it just looks the way it looks.
It feels finished.
And bright. I mean? It's so bright. It's
very bright.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's nice.
You know what Attack on Titan reminds me of in that regard is if you were ever watching week to week when Dragon Ball Super was airing, there's a couple sagas in there that are fucking rough to look at.
Really?
Oh, yeah, man. Like the... I don't want to... The name is also almost a spoiler. There's a Future Trunks arc.
Okay.
Where a new big bad shows up. And it's like there are frames and fights in that arc that look like fan animation. Like it was like really? And like I'm not being like, you know, a critical jerk here. It was like I remember I was very like plugged into the conversation at the time, and people were like, "What the fuck is going on over there?"
Really?
And it was to the point where if an episode had a specific director, people were basically saying like, "Oh shit, this is gonna be a rough one," versus a different guy, like some of the best episodes of the whole series would just somehow reliably get amazing results. We've kind of talked a bit about how this often has nothing to do with talent. It usually has more to do with budget and time.
Exactly.
And you could just tell Dragon Ball Super was like they were just barely making it. Like you could tell they were week to week.
Sure.
And they were just trying to get it out the door. And sometimes, not all the time, Attack on Titan Season 4 feels a little bit like that. Because man, the lady and I are on Season 3, and it's like, I don't ever remember in Season 3 questioning the art style, being like, oh, that seems weird. Like they kind of, you know what I mean? It just wasn't really something I thought about because like Dr. Stone, it was just like reliable. It was just there every time. Does that make sense?
Well, also too, like, keep in mind it's also a new studio that switched over to Season 4, and from the outside looking in, Mappa has got their hands in a lot of cookie jars.
I was about to say that. Didn't they do Jujutsu Kaisen as well?
They did that, and there's one I had just sent to you. I'm forgetting the name. Is it Yasuke?
African Samurai thing?
Yes, yeah, 6 episodes.
Been in production forever?
Yeah, 3 years to make 6 episodes, I guess, something like that, which I hope it looks phenomenal. But they got their hands in that. I believe they were involved in that Dorohedoro show that I was fawning over as well.
That's on Netflix, right?
That is on Netflix. Again, people, watch it. It's hilarious. But yeah, so, I gotta throw them a bone.
Right. Oh, no. Maybe they're stretched a little thin, it sounds like. But like, from everything I know, which is remarkably little, about animation and animation studios, is that like this is just like part of the industry, is these people are worked to the bone on crazy tight budgets and time. And sometimes it's rough. We mentioned Jujutsu Kaisen. Have you touched the show at all?
No, you and I feel like we almost took a virtual blood pact not to watch it without one another.
I know, Grant. I was so fucking close to watching it on Sunday when Attack on Titan got delayed. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I was like, well, I need something. And I had it like queued up, and I was like, Grant would kill me. But, man, I've seen some of the art, and like you said, that's done by Mappa, and apparently the animation for that show is fucking bonkers good.
It's so hard.
Some of the keyframes look so good.
That's the thing. Any visual I get, anytime I set eyes on the show, whether it's if I'm watching something on YouTube, like a video essay, and it's brought up, it just oozes Dave and Grant.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's just such our vibe, and it's just sitting there, and I can't touch it. It's like prolonged Christmas morning.
It'll be so. Imagine it's not great. Imagine it's just like.
I don't think that's the case.
Super. It's so big. It has to be.
Everything I've heard is just everyone's fawning over, specifically the action, and even like this. I think it's just the package. It's visuals, storytelling, and action. That's our bread and butter. So, we're definitely going to be getting to that.
And then, My Hero's coming up, right? Season 5?
Yes, sir.
Are you... So that's something we might end up covering. My Hero, thing is a juggernaut of a show, isn't it? Like,
Absolutely.
I just rewatched the finale of season 4.
It's like good.
It is. Very curious to see how season 5 plays out. Have you seen the trailers?
No, I went Zero Dark on My Hero.
They do a good call. They don't give too much away. I'll give you that. Like, I'm not saying you should avoid it or watch it, but I watched them and I did
know
not
the premise
glean very much.
I know the premise going into this season. It's I know the significance of the arc. I know I think it's a big deal amongst the manga readers.
Okay.
And the last season, I've watched every season.
Same.
Kind of more or less as they aired, with the exception of the first. I caught the first. Actually, similar to Attack on Titan, I had not watched the first season, and then halfway through the second, I started watching it week to week. I was caught up at that point. And, I finished that, and I was like, oh, I really can't wait for, season 3, and then season 3 was great, and, and then it was just like, when it comes kind of thing. This is the first time. I don't know what it was about last season. It's just going forward. I am really excited for season 5 of My Hero. I don't know what it is. It's just one of those shows. It's not that it's like too popcorny and I've kind of just not given it its due, because I genuinely, it's one of my favorites. I love it.
When was the Overlord arc? Was that 3 or 4? Season 3 or 4?
Overlord. That would have been 4?
I think it was like
beginning
early
of 4.
First half 4, and then like the second was like just kind of weird. I remember the pacing of the second half of season 4 slowed down a bit, or is that just my memory?
Well, I think because season 4 almost felt like 3 significant arcs. It was it was like the mafia. It was all the mafia stuff in the beginning, like against the Yakuza, and then it's Overload.
Yeah.
No.
Overlord, isn't it?
Overlord?
I don't know.
Anyways,
or Overload. Could be. Yeah.
I've had the longest day, so I'm just not even gonna give time to that. But then the second part was no. The first part was like kind of training up to that. Like Deku had been assigned to
got like their field assignment things.
Yeah, their field assignment, and then it was all the Yakuza stuff, and then weirdly at the last end there was like a 4-episode arc of that Mr. Gentleman, which you and I were not like super crazy about.
That's what it was.
And then there was the finale, which was like, where the fuck, like, why the fuck did they not just jump into this? You know?
Weird interlude. I mean, sometimes you need that as like a palate cleanser. You can't jump from one arc to another sometimes. I get it, but but yeah, I do. I am excited for season 5. Really, really curious to see where this wraps up. Is the manga still going? Do you know?
Oh, big time. Yeah.
I wonder if and when that'll wrap up. Are you watching anything else of note, anime-wise, right now?
Oh, big time. It's my... there's this little show called That Time I Was Reincarnated as a Slime.
So I haven't even touched it. And I think you may have sold me a bit on this.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year in that hiatus episode we did.
Mm-hmm.
What is it again?
So it's an
isekai.
On Crunchyroll, right? It is, yeah, for sure. It's all on Crunchyroll. It's an isekai anime, which the title says it all. It's so funny. I had a conversation with a friend on Saturday. Shout out to Bronson, big fan of the show. And I kind of half sold it to him. And I feel like initially he had his reservations. I think I hit him with the name alone, and I just saw that look, and it's just the reason I don't talk about it. I know I shouldn't be ashamed of what I watch and what I like.
No one's gonna anime shame you, Grant.
No, I know. Wow, 2021 is still a weird place.
Yeah.
But no, it's just there's few shows that I've seen in my life that have as much heart as this show.
Interesting.
It is.
Is it over?
No. Fuck, we've been waiting for this second season. What feels like almost 2 years.
Interesting.
So I think it originally aired in 2017 or 2018. Long first season. So to sum it up, 4-year-old virgin, total otaku, dies in his world, gets stabbed in the back on the street, like a random street attack, and he wakes up in this world as like a slime, like something you would see in like Dragon Quest.
So weird.
It's so weird. And you know what? Like if I think I had watched like best anime of the year, one of those videos, like a watch, which I love. I love the Watch
Mother's
Mojo.
Basement.
Mother's Basement. Ashley from Watch Mojo. I love his like anime stuff, and it was in one of their lists. And so I was like, okay, let's give it a go. And there's definitely moments too where it kind of hits the Fire Force area of like I'm a little uncomfortable at points just because it's kind of weirdly fan servicey in moments. But I think that is very much the territory of isekais. Again, this is the only real isekai that I've watched, so which I think just means like transported to another world.
Yeah, it's like new setting environment.
Yeah.
Right?
So, and I gave it a go, and it's like I said, he starts off as a lowly monster, and he has like this innate ability, as I think it's called like the Predator ability, and like slimes absorb other stuff, and they can learn abilities from other things, and he kind of gets like this out of nowhere power boost that allows him to kind of overcome his situation as a lowly slime. And honestly, Dave, like it sounds so fucking goofy telling it to you right now, but you watch this show, I cannot oversell the heart of this show. Like the massive fucking cast of characters in this show. And he makes his way out of this cave that he's trapped in, and he starts, not knowingly, but he ends up building this nation of monsters, and like it becomes a haven for monsters to like not be killed by humans and all that. And they have this really cool power system in the show. I don't know if this is a thing in other anime or like even other genres of fantasy or sci-fi. If a powerful creature gives a name to a creature of a lower level, essentially like they evolve into like a being of like higher intelligence. So he kind of gets this cast of characters, and the character's name is Ramiro Tempest.
Cool name.
And,
I like Tempests.
Yeah, and yes, very cool. So anyway, he just gets this cast of characters, and it's kind of wholesome, and he's kind of dopey at first. He's just like, you can tell like when he was alive, he was just like a good guy, not like he's not like a nice guy or anything like that, because I feel like he's not slimy. Oh fuck, Jesus Christ. no pun intended, but like he's just like a normal guy, and it kind of and there's like whole stories, and there's other anyway. So this season, Dave, we've been waiting for it for so long, and I'm so glad it's paying off visually. Some of the best fight scenes I've seen.
Wait, is there a second season?
The second season is airing right now.
Oh, that's what you're saying. Yes. Okay. You've been waiting, and it's been worth it.
Yeah. Oh, big time.
Okay.
And it was, I believe it was supposed to come out this past October, and then obviously, like everything else, it was kind of postponed by COVID.
I've heard of some circumstances changing and some things having to be delayed.
Yeah, in almost all aspects of life.
Yeah.
Anime being a big one. And if it could have worked to its advantage, like, I feel like lately some things just, in all media could just stay in the oven a little bit longer. So I don't know if that was the case for this show, but anyway, so we've been waiting a long time. The season is really, really paying off. Unreal action, the animation is top tier, and kind of similar to Dr. Stone, has a very bright color to it, and just I think there's a little bit of 3D kind of put in, kind of slowly blended into, and we were talking about examples. I had watched the first season of ReZero this year as well, and they do a very good job of kind of blending in 3D, very naturally blending in 3D into the show. But I don't know, this Reincarnated as the Slime, goofy name, kind of a mouthful of a premise feel like for non-anime watchers, or even people that are pretty strictly into shonen.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the one. Like if you're okay with a little bit of
if you want to branch out, it sounds. If you want to branch out,
and you're comfortable with a little bit of fan service,
okay.
In all aspects, but this isn't like Fire Force. Like Fire Force was like, fuck, like I cannot believe, like like let's tone this down a little bit.
Fire Force is a shame because it has amazing animation, but people are gonna say like my tolerance is really low, but I couldn't get through like a lot of the weird fan servicey kind of cringe moments that they do. Oh god,
and I guess fan service probably isn't the right word to be using. It's just the cringy, like the hypersexualization, and like I had said in that episode, whatever floats your boat, like by all means, like as long as no one's being harmed, I could care less. It's just it was a little overbearing, and again, this show too has some some moments of that, not as extreme in my opinion. But I think it's worth it to get through that.
Have you ever seen the movie or the anime Overlord?
No, I think you might have mentioned that last time.
Yeah, when you were so riddled with that stuff, like hypersexualization, just weird, uncomfortable shit. Like, it's kind of like how The Office has like secondhand embarrassment humor,
sure.
But like they're going for it. They want you to sit there being like, oh my god, I'm dying. But like that's just how I felt throughout like watching the first couple episodes of like Overlord. It was like, yo, I can't. There's no way you're convincing me to watch this. This is too fucking weird.
And you know what? Like at the end of the day, it's like I said, whatever floats your boat. But
that said, I mean, I will commit to the pilot at the very least. You've done a sales job.
Oh, like I said, I think it's. If there's one thing, if I really need to hit home, it's the heart of the show. You know, the cast of characters too. And it's very similar, again, similar to Dr. Stone. The comedy is gold, like, you know, and it's kind of nice too. Again, because I haven't experienced too much of like isekai, but like he's like making references and like, you know, to the real world, and he's slowly blending them in, and it seems natural too. The show just feels like a livable, breathable world. And
not too overwhelming.
The cast of characters can be a little overwhelming, but if you're watching from the beginning forward, obviously like you slowly like add them up, and there's been a couple points of who the fuck is this again? And then it comes quick too, and they did a really good job branching. The first episode, the week before the show came out, they put out almost like an episode long refresher of just season 1 stuff and major key points along the way that are going to be relevant going forward. And it's some of the best recap. It's probably one of the best recaps I've ever seen. It was just like, oh yeah, I had forgot about that completely. Thank you. And you know, it was like you go on YouTube, you know, like
I appreciate when shows like take a beat to do that shit.
Yeah, and not just like a quick like.
Yeah.
I hate when shows, you know, I think actually funny enough, because we're going to get into it, but like WandaVision, they kind of did like a previously on.
Yep.
And I feel like it didn't belong. Maybe because that's the whole like kind of gag of WandaVision, because it is all TV. But, okay, here we go. When Game of Thrones was on, Game of Thrones would do that week before. It would show like a couple scenes or from like the previous episode or moments in the season, or even going way back to like a moment that you should be remembering.
Yep.
I don't like when it's drilled into me like right before the episode starts.
Oh, I totally agree.
Because then I'm thinking on those moments and
You're
watching
for it.
You know, and it's kind of like, you know, maybe in Game of Thrones case they're trying to draw the eye away for some stuff and they want your attention focused on other things. But, you know, I like a good like a 20-minute episode before a season starts of, hey, you know, this is the show you love. Here are some moments that wouldn't hurt. It's been 2 years, you know, like here's some things that you probably...
Yeah, I think in those instances it's really good. Netflix has done some of that kind of cool stuff. Like I remember when House of Cards was on, you know, in between seasons, they would have like a whole recap that they would put together right before the pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be creative with that kind of stuff. Yeah. You mentioned WandaVision, and I think it might be interesting to get away from anime for a moment just to talk about that show and maybe just a little bit about the MCU. Because we were fans, you know, like everybody, you know, throughout basically the Infinity Saga, right? From the Iron Man 1 to Endgame, that was a hell of a run.
Quite a run, yeah.
We saw a lot of those movies together.
Yep.
And the question was like, you know, I remember after we saw Endgame, I was like, you know, I think I'm good. Like, I think that was good enough. I could probably just hang it up here. I knew that they wouldn't. You know, I was just nervous. Like, I think a lot of people were with like, okay, well, if they keep making too much, they might fuck up everything they've done. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to see them ruin what they've built. But they really took like a step back. You know, maybe COVID had a hand in that, but they took a really big step back. They haven't put out many movies since, and WandaVision was what really kicked off the MCU miniseries type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched all of it. I watched it basically week to week. You watched it too.
Yeah, week to week. Friday nights, it was a thing for the internet. It was kind of nice.
I saw the internet was a little split on it at times. You know, this is the worst thing ever, or this is the most profound thing ever. You know, what was your general
you know, funny enough, it kind of I was not split in the like I'm not, you know, I have a couple comic book series that I like and I've followed over the years, but I've never been a superhero comic fan. You know, I've dabbled in Batman. I think that was the only, you know, because Batman's Batman. But the Marvel stuff is, I kind of just take the MCU as like what that is, and I know there's like a bigger lore, but I appreciate, like, you know, that's the nice thing about the MCU, and I'm sure some people would say this is like sacrilegious, but like, I don't got the time to deep dive into like the lore totally of some of that stuff. So what is presented to us, you know, like it's popcorny and it's big and it's blockbuster. Yeah. But you know, you can see there was an attempt made to adapt all this stuff, and you can tell like there's so much passion going into it. That's why I've always been in. It's they are saying that they are big fans, and I believe that they are big fans. Like obviously, you know, Kevin Feige, like the king of Marvel. You know, like, I buy it. So I've always liked these movies, but I 100% agree with, I was kind of not over it, but I was like, I need a break. But the machine does not turn off, Dave. Like, no. the mouse is...
They found the money printing button?
Yeah. The mouse is always behind the wheel. You know, like, always in drive. Always in drive. And for a moment going into WandaVision, I had forgotten about my fatigue, but it immediately kicked in. Probably around like the okay, funny. Okay, we'll get into WandaVision. Spoilers, obviously, if you haven't seen it. Yeah, it's all people can do is watch TV. So I'd be surprised if you haven't, or you just don't care about Marvel. When they were doing the shtick of like paying homage to all these old school TV shows, because you know, growing up, like for whatever reason, we used like. In our home, we had VHS tapes of Gilligan's Island and like I Dream of Jeannie, and there's another one. I'm blanking on the third one, but we just had these random. It was, you know, it was what my mom watched growing up, and I would just watch those tapes over like this old TV, and it was kind of nice. It was like very nostalgic, you know, out of time for me, obviously, but it was nice. And you could see the effort they were making in linking the two worlds of like the Marvel and the history of like, you know, Scarlet Witch and Vision, and melding that into these different eras of TV. And when they were doing that, I look away from the screen. I thought it was so... You were digging it. It was so well done, and it you know, it was beautiful. Where did your fatigue set in? When the fucking MCU shit came back in. when it became... When Sword showed up? When Sword showed up, and I was like, fuck, man. Like... You know, this has to be a thing. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it just goes back to, you know, like the horn of the machine went off, and like, you know, the mouse is, you know, back on the road. Like, the stuff. Okay, how do we tie this into all the movies? And set up more movies. and that's where it was like a little, you know, that was where I was a little tired, and it was like, now that we had seen it before, anytime, I think his name is Ken in real life. His name is it Randall Park? Jimmy Woo. Oh, yeah. The FBI character? Yeah. Rock solid. That dude should be, like... Nails every scene. And, you know, people were online making jokes of why don't Marvel make an X-Files-esque show with him and Kat Dennings. Oh my God, and I was like, that's an idea that I would invest if I could. I would buy some Disney stock. But, you know, and WandaVision was not bad. I really, really liked it. The ending, I know people were split on that. Yeah. But when it was back into, and Catherine Hahn's character, again, spoilers, the Catherine Hahn's character, like, you saw it from a mile away, and this is coming from someone that I didn't know about these characters. I didn't know, I don't know the deep lore, but you could tell she's clearly the villain. She's probably pulling the strings. Great performance throughout. Great, and that's, and the same thing too. Like, she, and the Agatha all along, like all the little bits of like. But I was sold on a show that was about paying homage to, eras of TV. And when that was on, it was on. I loved it. And, it's like I said. But when it got back to furthering the story, I was just a little tapped out. That's fair. Yeah. As far as I go with that one, we agree and we don't agree. I mean, I thought it was good. But it's tricky because
I thought, to give them some credit, like when they were filming those segments as in different eras, that is the most innovative and creative like that they've been, and like least safe that Marvel has played it in a long time.
Probably since Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That said, they return to like safety and like to ruining moments with jokes like very quickly when the MCU comes screeching back in. At the same time, I will say like Elizabeth Olsen. And Paul Bettany, but especially Elizabeth Olsen crushed it throughout.
She was on like fire on all cylinders.
And we've talked a lot about throughout film, TV, anime, what you want to call it, but a lot of the time, good character development, progression, and just the opportunity to do that comes with time on the clock. And it is without a doubt, Elizabeth Olsen has had more time to develop a character than almost probably any character in the MCU, just by virtue of having a TV show.
Absolutely.
Think about like Scarlett Johansson, who was nominated for 2 Oscars last year. She hasn't been given the opportunity to flex like her creative muscles in a decade of being Black Widow.
Sure.
Maybe, I don't know, but maybe not a decade, but a long time. Like, there's just not a lot to work with. You're part of an ensemble cast in every movie. In movies that are 2 to 3 hours long, you have 18 to 20 minutes of screen time each. Not that I think, like, WandaVision is this, like, complete and total, critical and artistic success. It is still very much, like you said, a Disney property. Mm-hmm. But it was at least, like, it was good to see the characters get to flesh themselves out a little bit, get to see the actors do some fun work. I thought you said, like, Catherine Hahn.
Yeah.
Through, definitely a little predictable. But I thought, great performance from her, Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen. It was the end. I didn't have like the fatigue issue. It didn't hit me as hard as it hit you, but the end hit me really hard. Where it was like, this has been really fun, and I was really interested. Like leading up to the end, I was like, well, what are we gonna do about her kids?
Yeah.
How far have we gone? And then it was like, that was like the emotional line for me. That would have sufficed. But of course, like, nah, we have to have like a sky battle with the energy waves.
At the end of the day, they got to have some people punching each other in the face, and
and like they more or less guaranteed walked back Vision's death. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
They killed Loki in Endgame, and now he has a series. And
even then, that's if we're gonna get into the weeds on that, I think that's like a timey-wimey thing. Like,
yeah, it is, but it's like they killed 3 people and they walked back 3 deaths in one way or another. Like, they're still gonna keep cranking the money machine on those people.
I agree. That's why in anime, when you gone, you gone.
Man, fucking.
But the other thing too. So the other thing I really don't want to just leave it on the table about WandaVision is I like the respect that they gave the subject of grief for Wanda. Like, it was, there's definitely been shows where mental health is the primary focus, a lot better than it was 5 years ago.
Yep.
Even but it was just like a really I bought that story. I could feel her pain. By the end of it, it was kind of, it got
a little drawn out.
It got drawn, I wouldn't say drawn out, but it got the same problem of, all right, remember everyone, this is about superheroes punching each other. So it kind of just, it was like a flick of the switch. Not that she was just magically no longer like grieving. It was just the book had been closed on this chapter, and we'll see more. Like, we'll see you in Doctor Strange and all this and that, and that's, I think that's where the fatigue kicked in again. It was like, why, I like what we had here. Like, let's
Marvel.
Maybe,
they kind of have to pull their punches. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that that's one criticism that they have reliably received, is that they have a hard time committing to an emotional statement or a feeling. You know what I mean? Think about all the some of your favorite or potential favorite emotional beats in the Marvel movies, and then think about all the ones they ruin with like a cheap joke.
Sure.
It's like this weird habitual thing they do, is they can't just like kind of let it be sometimes. Anyway, I think we're coming across nitpicky. What I will say is, like, I'll reinforce what I said earlier. It was the most creative I've seen them in a while. I really enjoyed that we got to see more of WandaVision and Vision with from those really talented actors. I thought everything from the set production to set design. The score, generally speaking, was great.
Very good. Oh yeah, I really like the show. I want to be clear. I really like the show, but you know, I think this property that Marvel has created or has kind of reintroduced back to, you know, the public, you know, with the MCU. It's not that the time wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm like, that's the thing too. Like we have, you know, Falcon and Winter Soldier coming up
in like a week, less like 3 days.
Yeah, which is going to be like, hey, all MCU. So,
yeah.
And I'm going to watch it, obviously. But
I
I'm
have
just
a really bad feeling it might suck.
I don't think it'll suck. I don't think it'll suck. We'll see. Well, you know, maybe we'll have this again conversation again when it ends. But again, one of the two more things I want to touch on. I don't want to keep dragging on WandaVision, but there's two more things. The best thing to come out of this whole season is one of the funniest fucking troll moments I have ever witnessed in Paul Bettany.
Oh god, is it gonna go right over my head? Go ahead.
Have you not? Did you? Okay, so there was a point in the season post when there was that big reveal of Evan Peters' Quicksilver from the Fox universe.
Yep.
Which I called it. You and I were talking. I was like, not him, red herring. You and I had a conversation when that happened, and I was like, "There's no way. This is all in her head," which it kind of was. But
super weird for them to use that was just all super weird. But yeah,
was a cool moment. But I was like, "This is them trying to do a bait and switch on us." But Paul Bettany was like doing. I don't know if it was an interview or if it was a tweet, but there was a quote of him saying, yeah, Evan Peters was cool and all, but like, you know, there's someone coming up in this show that I've been really, really wanting to work with my whole career. So everyone was like, fucking, you know, like dove down into this rabbit hole. And it was him. It was like when Vision met Vision. He was talking about himself.
That's ridiculous.
And watching the internet shit their pants and just get like pissy about it.
That's fucking hilarious.
It's so funny. And that leads into my other point. When we watch Attack on Titan every week, you know, you and I, we try to save our conversations, you know, for the pod, but you know, every now and then you and I, we look on the subreddits and, you know, just trying to see, like, get the mood of what everyone's feeling. It's fun to be a part of the community, you know, and, you know, henceforth why we're doing this. But there could not be polar opposite types of fans than there are. Yeah. The anime community, which, you know, can be pretty polarizing and a little aggressive at times, but for the most part, it's everyone kind of just basking in what we just watched or what we're experiencing together. Yeah. It is a cesspool on the Marvel side. I think that's just the byproduct of, like, more eyes getting on it and, like, bigger audiences.
Yeah, when it's that big, it's hard to avoid that, right?
But it's just wagging the finger of, like, no, you're stupid. That's a dumb theory and da-da-da. Like, you know, like, you go on...
People
like,
just attacking each other? What a stupid take.
It's aggressive, and it's, like, it's a product that you just don't know the answer to, so, like, why are you getting upset? And then, you know, you go to Attack on Titan, you know, I can't remember what, but I remember it was like a ridiculous take on, like, what might happen. I think it was the episode following, I think it was the episode where Eren gets the Warhammer Titan. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember what it was, something about, I don't know if the guy was just being like a goof on Reddit or whatever, but like the comment below was like, no, but like, could you imagine? And it was just kind of like comforting. Like, it was just like an immediate response of like fuck no, but like, good idea. You know, like, you wouldn't see that on like the Marvel Studios subreddit or whatever. You know, it's right. I don't know, it's just
people are so in the weeds in the MCU, and they're just
too in the weeds.
It's like what you said earlier, like. The MCU is, you know, a bit of a representation and spin on all of this lore, but there's so much fucking lore, and it's so easy to get so deep into the weeds about it. Yeah. That maybe sometimes, and a lot of the times, like, the best way is just to, like, take the MCU kind of as it hits you. I don't know if it'll ever be as good as it was in that last, you know, in those last two Avengers movies when kind of everything was coming together and they were very clearly building towards that crescendo. I think that's going to be pretty hard to recreate.
But those were like the weekend, you know? You know, everything leading up was like a 5-day work week, a bad 5-day work week, and you got that, you know, that Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And that's what it was. It was like we had earned those last two movies.
Oh, big time. Yeah, we had to watch Thor: The Dark World to get to those two movies.
I rewatched that.
Don't say it's good.
No, it's not good, but it is by no means as bad as I remember. I remember walking out of the theater and being like, wow, they fucked up.
Yeah, and, I mean, it's a weak Thor movie, I guess.
But going back was not as bad as I remember it. You know, it could be. That's time.
What do you think the worst one is?
The worst one?
Yeah. I was looking at the MCU. My girlfriend was saying, "Oh, let's do a rewatch." She hasn't seen a lot of them, and I was looking through them, and I was like, "Oh God, like there's a few here we could just skip." And I remember I was like, Iron Man 2 was kind of inconsequential. Thor 2, I really didn't need. And Avengers 2 was like okay, but it got a lot of criticism. But I remember it was not nearly as bad as people were saying.
The one, anytime it's been brought up to rewatch, then I flat out say no, is Iron Man 3.
Man, I just watched that and I don't blame you.
It's and while we're at it, I think Robert Downey Jr. is a tremendous Tony Stark in Iron Man. I have not cared. All three of his Iron Man movies, they are my least favorite.
Yeah, they did it they did a really good job in setup and this and that, and yeah, he's the best in terms of embodying that character. But yeah, standalone movies, it's kind of funny how that all works out, because they are the RDJ show. Yeah, you know what I mean.
And funny enough, yeah, the one I like the most is the second one.
Go figure.
I don't know why. I don't know. There's something about it. Maybe Mickey Rourke, but
I'm so excited. I'm very curious to see what they do with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. A buddy cop show is not really what I had expected, but that's kind of what the trailers are hinting at. But they're also hinting at some dark stuff.
I am looking forward to Baron Zemo because
he was great in the movie.
Well, he was great in the movie, and
Daniel
when you think about it, he's the only villain to really succeed.
He really did. I remember reading stupid embargo reviews the week that movie came out because I was so pumped for that movie. And people were like, decent movie, kind of a lame villain. And then I remember watching that movie and being like, are you fucking kidding me?
He won.
That man tore those people apart.
He had a goal.
Yeah, Jesus.
He executed it, and he, kind of, made a run for it.
Yeah, I mean, that actor is just fucking killer. So
yeah.
We're motoring through here. I think there's one thing I want to ask you about.
Let's do it.
Zack Snyder's Justice League. The cut. The Zack Snyder cut. After... How old is this movie?
I don't know.
3 years old?
Oh.
It's a couple years old. That's fair to say. After petitions and trending hashtags all over the internet, HBO was finally like, all right, time to cash in on the fan service and re-release a movie that, if for anybody that cares, that movie came out and did not do great, and Zack Snyder was ousted halfway through it.
I don't think no. He was not ousted.
He had a personal situation and he had to step down from the movie. Is that fair?
Yeah, considering what had happened, I think he needed to.
And then Joss Whedon, director of Avengers 1 and 2, came and finished it off.
Yeah. Look how he's doing now.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And, by all accounts, if you're a DC fan, Whedon ruined the movie, and Zack Snyder's, vision never really made it to film, and so here we are. And I believe HBO ordered reshoots and put millions of dollars into CG. It's significantly longer. I've seen the trailer. It looks significantly better. The villain looks unrecognizable compared to what actually made it to the screen.
Really? I think you and I had talked about this a couple days ago.
Yeah.
The last DC movie that I've seen was Suicide Squad with you.
God.
You and I remember we paid VIP. That was the only reason you and I could...
Simpler time,
Well, I remember you and I knew it was going to be bad. We had already read the reviews. So you and I treated ourselves to a VIP movie experience to kind of lessen the blow, which was... I had a great night.
Worth it.
Couple drinks, some snacks. It was good.
It's always worth it, yeah.
And honestly, not great. Didn't think it was that bad. Obviously, it wasn't. Was bad, but it was like a good bad movie.
it's like rating the degrees of how bad a film is like really hard, right? Because it's like, could you say it's like objectively bad? It's like, okay, well, what's objectively bad? I mean, I think like by most measures, it wasn't a good movie. Like it just wasn't. But like, does it deserve like the united hatred of the internet?
Yeah.
And like the director and everybody to be torn apart just for having taken part in it? Probably not. It wasn't that bad. But
I was going in with bonus points because my guy Joel Kinnaman, you know.
Yeah.
Shout out to my the Killing Stands if you're out there. All time great. Anyways, but no. So anything he's in, I'm always like, it can't be that bad.
So So my first question for you then is: A, have you seen Justice League the theatrical cut? And B, will you see the Snyder cut?
No. So funny. So okay. So what I was gonna follow up with is the last DC movie I saw was the Suicide Squad, and before that was Man of Steel.
Did you not even see Batman vs Superman?
No.
What?
No. Okay. Here I got it. This is a fun little anecdote.
Like it also wasn't good, but I would have assumed that you would have seen it.
No, I was living in Ottawa at the time. You know, Shane had gone to see it with I don't know who. Could have I don't know. I don't know. He had gone to see the movie, and he had come home, and he might have been a little buzzed, or I was buzzed. You know, from we were out drinking, and he just told me the plot of the movie, like by memory of what he had just seen and how like it's one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. And I was just fine with it. After he told me that, I was like, I never have to see this movie. It was the perfect. I'm pretty sure he was drunk. Anyways, and ever since that point, I was like, these movies sound ridiculous. I don't think I need to see another one, and I haven't. Like I haven't seen Shazam or Aquaman or anything like that.
Oh, I haven't seen those either.
All I have in my heart of hearts is that one night of a drunken version of Batman vs Superman. Like I've just. You know, I thought Ben Affleck looked cool as Batman. Like Batfleck was a cool idea. I liked Henry Cavill as Superman and all this stuff. I just, you know, also I'm not super big on Gal Gadot. I don't get it.
Yeah,
like she visually she fits Wonder Woman. But you know what?
That second movie got torn apart. I thought the first Wonder Woman might have been the best the DCEU ever was.
So now that we're talking about it, I got 10 minutes into the first Wonder Woman movie. I had to turn it off.
Into the first one?
Yeah, I was like, Jesus. I'm not about this at all. I think it wasn't her.
I'm not saying it's great, but I think that might be to me the best the DCEU ever got. And it's like a very middling like it's an average what do you call it, origin story.
Sure.
Like it's good, like it's fine, you know, ending is like, you know, big bad boss fight, it's fine, but like, you know, her and Chris, what's not Pratt or Evans or Hemsworth, the Star Trek
Pine. Chris Pine, yeah.
Chris Pine and her, great chemistry, good comedy, fine. But yeah, so just quickly on Zack Snyder then, it feels like and you know, if you watch Watchmen and like other shit that Zack Snyder has done, it's like he really is big on effects and really crushes it in those often.
Yeah, Watchmen's great.
Yeah. This saga of him directing DC films has felt like it's Zack Snyder and like the million excuses that come along with it.
Yeah.
And for like the subpar product. And like, hey, you know, to be fair, it sounds like everybody who made a DC film, like every director until maybe recently, has like really had to fight the studio. So there's that. You know what I mean? Like I heard that, you know, and it was like, I mean, it's not like I have an inside source. It was like fucking news everywhere that making BVS, he was trying to make it, and the studio was like, you need to devote half of your movie to setting up our universe. Because Marvel's has a 10 movie head start, and we're going to start our own universe with this movie. So he had kind of lost the battle in BVS before it even started. And I'm not giving them an excuse, but like if that's true, then that's rough. And then apparently, just last point on this, like Justice League, he was like, oh, that's got to be a 2-parter. You know what I mean? Like really build it crescendo, and they're like, no, you're gonna do it in one, and it will be no more than 2 hours long, and you will figure it out.
Oh my god!
And then he leaves halfway through, and Joss Whedon picks up the pieces.
Well, I think, again, this is just like layman's outside, reading of the situation, but I think the big difference between the Marvel and the DC movies is on the Marvel side, it's being run by the people who make the comics. Like it's one entity. Like it's Disney, but like Disney is Marvel, Disney is Star Wars. Like it's kind of all encompassing.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like on the DC side, like obviously, the DC is very involved, but that is Warner Brothers show. Like they're probably the real money behind it. So it could just be, a byproduct of not full cooperation across the board. Well, I don't know. Like it's never something I've been super invested in. So
the horror story of Suicide Squad was the same alleged problem, right? In that David Ayer made a very dark film in Suicide Squad that he was happy with, and then they put out a trailer and it got a really good attention because it had Bohemian Rhapsody in it, and then
I remember that trailer. That was a good trailer.
Yeah, and then Warner Brothers ordered $80 million in reshoots to make it a lighter movie, and then in the cut, the audience got a halfway version of both, like this weird kind of witty, funny alt comedy version that Warner's was pushing versus this dark version that David Ayer had made, and we got kind of like the weird, not love child, more like aborted fetus of those two things. And it was not good. Because I remember like there being really weird, cringy comedy, and then like all of a sudden you just see people getting shot in the head with no music in the background. It was like a very weird movie tone wise.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But like laughing, you know what, Dave? It's funny. Like you're sitting here talking about Suicide Squad. And I'm just sitting here like laughing, thinking back to one of the lines and how cheesy it was, and I'm laughing. Like it's at least at that product there was something of substance for people to kind of laugh along with, in points. So I don't know, but again, I know nothing about these Justice League or the Batman versus like what movies are there in order for the DC line?
Don't ask me. I think it's Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Batman versus Superman. Wonder Woman. Justice League. Aquaman. Shazam.
Was there a second Superman movie?
No, that was Batman versus Superman.
Oh, okay.
And then he shows up in Justice League. And that was it.
Huh. Because he died. That was the thing. He died.
He died supposedly at the end of BVS, supposedly, but they had him in the posters for Justice League before it came out, even though he like died at the end. It was messy. So will you watch the Snyder cut or no?
If you watch it, I'll do a live watch with you.
Yeah.
How would we watch it? Are we getting it here in Canada?
I think, and like this, italics on that, or italics, italicize, italics.
Let's just call it italics from now on.
Slanted words. I believe it's on HBO Max like today or tomorrow or something, and if you have, I don't think HBO Max is even in Canada. I have no idea how.
Well, it's all through Crave, I think.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. It's on their streaming platform, which I believe, yes, one way or another, through some paid service, you can get it in Canada.
I do like the idea of it being like a 4-hour shtick, maybe.
I don't know how long it's going. I know it's longer.
I know it's 4 hours and 1 minute.
Fuck off. Seriously?
So, yeah.
The Snyder Cut is 4 hours?
Yeah, it's like it's being marketed as like a TV series. It's 4 episodes.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I think, you know what, like maybe as like purely on the editing basis, I'm curious of how they're going to chop this up and deliver it to us, I think that would be interesting. But I'm wondering how much I would really
well, if you haven't even bothered, with the films that lead to it.
But what if DC and Warner Brothers are using this as the new pivot of this is the new... But that's not the thing. There's another Batman. Fuck, what are they doing? They are asleep at the wheel over there.
And they did Joker with a different Joker, right? Like, they've done an offshoot Joker movie.
What was your take on that while I got you? I don't think you and I ever talked about. Yeah.
Phoenix, like the actual movie itself, or how it fit into the DCEU. Or
no, in general. What do you think of it?
Sorry, that's my cat. So I liked it. I mean, that's the thing is, I thought the criticism about its subject matter was overblown, as things often are.
Sure.
I thought the movie, if I had a single criticism, it was very clearly a love letter to Taxi Driver, which I also
blatant
recently watched. Almost too much so. I think there's a line there, and I think he may have leaned on Taxi Driver ever so slightly, but
hot take.
Go ahead.
Hot take. Obviously, had a lot of visual cues to Taxi Driver, and narrative wise, I just felt like comparing it to that was kind of a way of a cop out to the subject matter in the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
It was a way to get away from it and saying well, it's an homage to this old movie that exists. And,
I see. Oh, you mean that was their strategy to move away?
I think so. That's a very cynical look at it, but
for what it's worth, Dark Knight, I think a lot of people would agree, is one of the best comic book movies ever.
Sure.
And the Joker and that was done so well, and it was we saw what happened with the Jared Leto Joker, and it was Jesus Christ, could we not have just left this alone? And then we decided to give him an origin movie, which I think the whole point in the comics is he doesn't have one. There was a lot that was set up for this movie to fail, and then for me it just didn't. I thought the score was fucking haunting.
Sure.
Joaquin Phoenix is in 99% of the shots, and he kills it throughout. There's some clever misdirects that worked for me. De Niro worked. The ending worked. It just worked. And I liked the idea of kind of having the assumption that this was just going to be it. One and done. Who knows if they do a sequel? I don't think they do, though.
I don't know. If they did, I think that'd be weird.
Yeah, I liked it. It was just kind of a character study. Here's the character that you know. Do you want to know how he ended up this way? Yeah. And I was satisfied with their version of how it ended up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Fuck me, I won an Oscar.
Yeah, weird little sidebar there. I don't know. It's just it brought up and just we're curious because that's just one of the ones I feel like we never talked about.
Yeah.
At the time, usually you and I are pretty
on the ball with that stuff.
Immediately, when something is out, we usually go to each other first. So.
But you liked it?
Yeah, I found it as I've watched Taxi Driver a few times in my life, and it was kind of it was one of those things. As I was going into the movie, I had read it, and
then it's hard to not see.
It was hard not to see, and then I feel like even if I hadn't read it, it would have been pretty obvious because I've seen the movie enough times. But I remember honestly being really unsettled.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm not saying I'm
no, I don't disagree.
I'm not a big baby, but anytime there's this is gonna sound silly. I'm gonna maybe I'll use some anime. Anime, it's the what's the phrase? Imagine or disbelief of imagination.
Yeah.
When I watch Tom Cruise in a movie doing something fucking crazy, it's there's no way, but I buy it. Tom Cruise sells it. And then anime, or any animated type show, or Star Wars or anything like that, but when it's real violence and it's very well made real violence, I don't like seeing people fight. It's awkward to see people argue in public and all that. And there's just something about this. And thinking about it, I don't think I've really seen a movie in theaters that was that was like that. Usually I'm at home or something like that. It was just I was in a big public setting. There's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
It was a packed. One of the few times here in our theater where it was a sold out show, which I found super strange. And it was just the subject matter of the movie. Honestly, this is gonna sound so fucking spooky, and I don't even bringing it up, but all I could think was just someone running into the theater and doing something crazy.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
It
made a lot of that stuff feel a little bit too real. I know what you mean. In action scenes, especially if you're comparing it to a Tom Cruise action scene, it definitely none of that shit hits close to home. You know what I mean? Because it's fucking popcorn. This was Jesus Christ, it's kind of breathing down your neck with how real it was.
Here's like another example. Like I didn't see it in theaters, but even then, like, you know, you can get Unsettled in your own home. But have you ever seen Eastern Promises with Viggo Mortensen?
Viggo Mortensen, years ago.
So there's that like pretty
bathhouse scene.
The bathhouse scene, and that's pretty visceral and raw and real looking. But like that is a very much like a real scenario, and it felt real, but it wasn't shot as a horror movie. It was shot as like an intense. I think maybe that's why Joker, like, because it was low key a horror movie in my opinion. You know, especially and there's like, you know, I think there's the scene where he has like the transformation in the fucking bathroom, and I remember just thinking to myself, I was like, I could walk out of this. Like, and I understand why people did walk out of this movie. You know? I don't know why we're getting so caught up on the fucking Joker right now, but it's yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah, it was real, but I thought. It was real in like an artsy fartsy way. Like I think that the reason that they got the money to do it and the reason that it may have done so well theatrically is because they put the name Joker on it. But that could have been about anybody. You know what I mean? Like there was very little comic book stuff involved in that movie, if at all, other than tacking the Waynes on at the end.
I was gonna say
and giving him the name Joker in the climactic scene. But like other than that, like. That was just like a you know what I mean? That was just a kind of a commentary, character study, homage film. And like by all accounts, kind of artsy. Definitely doesn't belong in the DCEU.
Well, they wish they had something as anyways, what a turn.
Yeah. You want to wrap it up here?
Yeah, I think so. I think this was a good little palate cleanser.
A little bonus episode for y'all.
And you know what, Dave? I obviously I hope everyone in Japan is good after the earthquake and all that. But kind of like a silver lining of this is how quick do those episodes go on Sunday nights?
Oh yeah, one of the top comments I always see is like they need to stop making 5-minute episodes.
Yeah. So like it'll be nice to double up and kind of.
God man,
do you think?
I'm terrified.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be a nice little treat.
Because think of it this way.
Going back to back. But that's the thing. I hope they blend well.
Yeah.
Like, immediately. Like what if there's a moment in the last 3 minutes where you're just like, and like, the week
you're meant to sit with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Hopefully there's nothing like that.
Because it is, think of it this way. We get 2 episodes and then it's the finale of the season. Yeah. So we get 2 on Sunday, 1 week break, and then 1 more, and then it's over.
One way or another.
Yeah, so kind of terrified. I think most of our predictions last week were mostly like, we could sense the chaos coming like everybody else can, and it seems very possible that we could have some character arcs ending, and we don't really know who that's going to be and in what form. I cannot believe I sat with it this long already. And we have a few more days to go, but I'm really, really excited to see how it goes. And yeah, we'll double up on our analysis. So yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see everyone next week.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully this was a little different, a little bit fun for you guys. Obviously, if you're still listening, then you have found us. So please feel free to support us on social media, follow, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.